You want to stay longer, chance to get out. Yeah. You got
He's not logged in yet.
Do we want to give him a moment or should I just get started?
That is up to you, Mr. Chairman.
Should I give Bill a chance to log on or?
Yeah, Martha will wait.
No, I'm gonna give Bill a moment to log on and go get it done.
It's easier to show up in here.
Because I turned off one side of the presentation rather than having to run back. For 2 minutes.
Yeah.
The other Zoom. All right, I'll give him another minute.
He never answered me that he didn't get it, so.
What is that, Greg?
It is a glazed persona.
A crown? Where
They're
does
very
it come
good.
from?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
Where did the
This
donut
guy?
come from?
No, those are
Oh, is it from
I-
Hennings?
from. It's either.
Oh, from Landis. Oh, it's
Oh,
even
yeah,
better.
the nice.
Those grays.
Yeah.
How can something so bad taste so
This is somebody.
All right, if I could, everyone, please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, all. Welcome to the Monday, September 12th, New Britain Township Board of Supervisors work session. The board met in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss personnel. Our first item on the agenda this morning, that's, we'll see how many times I say that today, is our presentation items. These are informational only. Any action we may take will be done in a future business meeting. So, do we want to start with a capital plan?
It's your discretion.
Or do we want to let the sewer authority people,
I'm okay with that.
is the board all right with swapping the sewer authority with the capital plan?
That's fine.
All right, do we need a motion to amend to swap or are we good?
They're both listed there.
All right, John, we're not gonna make you impressed. We're not gonna make you sit through our entire capital plan and budget review. If you'd like to step up to the table, introduce yourselves. Do we? Oh, I guess, can we turn some lights on for at least until we get the projector? Or do you need a projector?
No, I don't. I just check shit. The wires are something in the chair. I guess I just.
Oh, geez.
We're making a mess.
See what they say about broken claims.
Okay.
All right. John Smith, President Gamble, President is one or two of the newest appointees, board members, the executive, and I'm gonna say there's two good choices. I think both great additions to the board. Just with here, you have some agenda items for us, and we just report to you, which you want to do first. Or?
Well, any of the action items on the agenda will be taken on under a
Okay,
separate
all right,
area of
yeah.
our agenda.
Okay.
So right now it's just
Just-
the status update.
Yeah, our pump station project is getting real close to ready to go. We're still waiting on the DEP permit. Last thing we wanted was some more money, which we sent to them. So they said as soon as they got the money, they put us high on their agenda to get the permit issued. So then we'll go to bid. I hope to be going to bid in September, but that's already quickly sliding away. But this fall sometime will be advertised for bid. And start construction right in winter. Construction projects do. Should take, I think estimate is about 6 months. to complete. Appreciate your cooperation in that. I guess we got that easement issue all squared away now with everybody's satisfaction. Any questions on that?
Are you anticipating road closures, durations?
The only possible one that's gonna be an issue with the there on Walrus Road. The short stretch where we come right down the middle of the road. I know we had an issue. You're working on that bridge now. I've heard. It's like,
Oh, Walters Road's never gonna be open, is it?
we may have to close that down for a short time just because it's a narrow road and the sewer line's right down the middle.
It's been closed for a year now, so once we get it open, we'll be closing it again, huh?
It won't be for long. It's just that we're concerned because if they close our part, there's no bridge the other way. I know that one of the residents expressed that concern. We had the same concern, but we're glad to see the bridges getting complete, so we can work that out time. Whatever road opening permits we need from the township, we'll get closer.
Does the board have any other questions about the pump station?
Not about the pump station, but in general status.
Well, hold on, let me.
Yep.
Bill there?
He said he'd be on in a minute.
Oh, okay, all right, well then, Bill doesn't, let's let them, do you have anything else to present at this time? Future projects, status of the sewer authority?
There's another upcoming project we're gonna engage in this fall. We're using a third-party company to do an in-depth study of some of our sewer lines, looking for leaks, infiltration, you would call it, with these sewer lines, concentrated to the older areas of the system initially. One being Brittany Farms, and the other is in Helper Tract, Shotland Borough. Which two of the areas we've had some problems with backups in the past. That was two good areas to start with, and it's for large areas, we can get a lot of it at once. What they do is they put a whole lot of meters in multiple manholes throughout the system, and they wait for a decent rainfall and watch the flow rise. They can pinpoint which lines are the worst areas. They also look at your manholes and do a report on the condition of the manholes. And they also have some sort of sound echo device that they point from one manhole to the other to look at the condition of the line inside to see if it's fully open, whether it's partially obstructed. If there's roots, they can somehow tell this. So we'll be doing that in the fall. We can just pick a date yet, but
Is there is there a way for you to create some kind of an information sheet for us or for yourselves to put out to the township residents in that area so that we will get calls? Why are the sewer manholes open? What are they doing? Or are we gonna get
yeah,
billed
our
for this?
guys will be out there with them too when they're opening our manholes. But you won't see them too much. They're gonna be in and they're gonna put the meters in, and then they're gonna wait for the data and then take them out. But Yeah, I can, I have a whole package of stuff from them. I could look through it and I can send you all proposal with Matt and then we can discuss what we might do. Maybe you just put a little something on your website and our website that.
Yeah, an alert to the residents will probably help with all the
Yeah.
volume of calls that
Yeah.
we'll get.
Yeah, if you put a
questioning
white
what it
mark
is.
on a road, they make a phone
Mhm.
call, so.
Yeah.
It's not a very intrusive process to the system. You probably even know they're there once they connect to the manholes, but it's all technology using probably radar to measure velocity and flow to try to figure out when you have a rain event, one area is rising above another event and trying to figure out where that flow's coming from.
The purpose is it needs to give us a comprehensive evaluation of the system in an area so that we can then go do repairs where they're needed. Because we've done some slip lining up in Tower Hill recently and that's work is all done, but that's very expensive. And just to go do everything, it costs you millions, where if you can pinpoint the worst areas and concentrate the work on that, you know, you're spending some money to hopefully save yourself some money down the road.
Very cool.
You stated you've had some backups and things. Is that, are these the areas where they've been occurring?
Some of, yes, some of them.
What other areas are having issues? And what other areas are having issues in this township?
I would say that's in New Britain Township, that's the worst area is Britain Farms. As far as sewer leaks, it's always been a problem since day one. You know, it's put in the sixties, it was clay pipe, rocky area, and there's leaky pipes in the area. It all drains down to the little creek to the sewer main and it runs down from there and the pipes fill up.
I'm talking about backups into houses.
In New Britain Township, that is the area where we've had some along Brittany Drive. We've taken care of several of them. We've put in some check valves for the residents that had routine problems. We're putting in another one this week for a person that never had a backup before, but had one on Brittany Drive. That is the low area.
Any other question?
No, that was it.
Oh, okay.
Get an overall update.
And how are the facilities? You know, it's been a few years since the fire, but how's everything?
Good. Ever since the fire, we have a couple of years ago put in a brand new dryer for our biosolids, and that's working very well. Got a lot of repairs we've been doing. Some of the new plant is now 30 years old. Still new to me, but it's a lot of repairs to that. Capacity wise, we're always close to our peak capacity, and because we're all development, we get closer and closer, and something we'll have to address at some point. Other than that, it's running pretty well.
Well, now I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
In light of the discussion of the aqua acquisition, just in general, how is the financial outlook for the sewer authority? Is it?
I think we're in good shape. We're not rolling in tons of money, but I don't know if we need to be. But we have enough to have some backup funds. We just did raise rates 5% earlier this year, and we plan to do another one at the end of this year. Right. Just to keep up with the repairs we need.
And we're increasing energy costs to run the plant coming
Yeah.
this fall and winter. That's really gonna be a driver.
So small and steady increases rather than a whopping great.
Yes,
increase.
that we
Yes.
haven't raised more than 5% in a long time. Just give them 5% increase
Mhm.
every other year or something. That's what we need.
And the board has approved hiring 2 new operators, right? One new one.
Yeah,
basically on
well,
board.
we're at a point, like a lot of people, that a lot of our existing staff is getting older. And we're looking, we've had some retirements already, we're going to have some more in the future, so we're kind of doing replacements and some overlap at the same time. Training purposes.
Very cool.
We've got some good new people on our staff that are good O&M people, good maintenance people. I don't want to say younger people, but they're younger than me.
Does the board have any other questions?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, Mr. President, is there anything you, from your now sitting on the board, sitting as a representative, that we should know going forward or need to plan for, with the sewer authority?
I don't think so. The board in general works really well together. All of your board members get along well. We work together well. Decisions are made as a board. For both the township and the borough that are coming on. I think some of the things that John mentioned that we're going to be doing to try to look at where it's coming from are important. Anyway, having super high flows kind of really stretch the plan out a little bit. So trying to find out where those flows are coming from. We've installed a new inflow pump as of a backup pump just to handle a higher flow rate as you need to. So I don't see any coming aboard that John's mentioned to you that we need to be concerned about, but just looking at aging infrastructure, making sure we're keeping that up to date. There have been supply chain issues. You've heard that word used a lot. Board was subject to some of that too, getting some spare parts earlier in the year. I think that's kind of lessened a little bit now. But having operators also do the maintenance of the plant, I think works really well because they're attuned to the operation side, but also how to fix it. That's what they come. So I think everything seems to be going in that right direction for that.
So is the stress coming from development or from the heavier rain events, where there is just more water coming in at one?
It's
Major
been the
event.
worst for us from the rain events. We've had 4 straight years of wet weather that has really pushed up the plant average flows higher than they should be. It started out this year being the same way, but then we had a real dry summer, so it's helped us out a lot. But affecting our plant average flows the last 4 years was just crazy rainfall. I think we averaged, the typical annual average rainfall was about 45 inches. The 4-year period, we averaged like 65 inches a year prior to this year. And it was just, that just makes our flows go up.
I would assume the heavier rains are the worst rains for you.
Yeah, and then you get them real heavy and then the plants, the
Yeah.
flows are way up and it's.
Yeah, like anywhere you get it all at one time.
Right.
In a very short period of time, it stresses the system.
Which is how we seem to be getting all of our rain is in 3 hours.
Yeah.
So now,
Keep the hurricanes.
is there, we need feedback from you as well. Is there anything that the township could be doing to help you as an authority do their job better?
I'd say we always do appreciate the cooperation that Ryan and his work group, and the interaction we have with our crew is great. And we appreciate your help and we try to help each other out. That's on that level anyway. It's not, board level, it's just appreciate your support. And help any way you can.
Okay. Yeah, we like to see good, strong communication between the authority and the administration building, and going forward, hopefully, we can maintain that. So.
Matt, I did get your message about the tour. This week's schedule's already kind of crazy. I'll be in next week because we can use this week to try and come down a date. I mean, Greg wants to come and anybody else would like to see the plan too.
It's just a really cool process.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just,
You gotta see it.
I like to nerd out,
You gotta see it.
look at, identify the bacteria under the microscope.
You can't get any more than 2 of us at one time, but yeah, we could, if anyone else is interested in joining Matt and I, let us know.
Would like to come.
I'm interested to
Yeah.
be uptown.
Okay. So,
Can make that happen.
is the board, any other questions, anything they want to discuss? We're good?
We're good.
Just one other item, just let your staff know, we are going to start doing some easement clearing this fall. We haven't done it in a long time. Some of them are totally inaccessible. We're gonna start with some of the township and borough properties just because you guys are more friendly faces and
Less likely to
the
react.
private properties. I think Rich is gonna be in touch with Ryan about this, and if he hasn't, he's going to just let you know where we're gonna be doing that. But just some smaller areas just to get started on it and do the municipal properties first before we put out the letters to the private property. And we're saying we're gonna be taking down brush and trees in your properties, but
And that would be good.
just to let you know,
Coordinated
because
us.
even doing your properties, somebody's gonna get the phone calls, hey, there's people back in the woods cutting down trees.
Yeah, let's get ahead of that. If you know what properties you're gonna be
Oh,
doing.
well, we already
Let's put
know,
it out
and
there.
we're gonna, Rich is gonna read it with Ryan, and show them. what we're gonna
But
do.
even the private properties, I
Oh,
would,
yeah, well,
yeah,
we'll do, let you know
Yeah.
that, so where we're gonna be doing that.
Can you,
I don't even know if we're gonna get to them this fall yet. We're going to just piecemeal a little bit at a time. We might just do the township and borough properties this fall. We're done until next year.
Anytime there's a potential for resident interaction, I would appreciate some
Sure.
ahead of time, so we can,
Oh, yeah.
so we can support your efforts.
Yeah.
and-
so that
Yeah,
the
we're
police
letting
aren't
you know.
called.
We just started talking with a contractor and looking at a game plan just last week, so we're hoping to get some of this done this fall.
Can you forward just a list of like the properties you're gonna be going on to, and like, if you have it phased out, or, you know.
Yeah.
Just so I can circulate that to our staff that answers the phone, so that
We will, yes.
they can have a quick response to the residents that do call, direct them to.
Yeah.
Talk to you guys, but know what it is, tell them what it is, that
We will.
please, thank you.
So we
Very
got
cool.
that down, Pat, we'll look at it.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very much.
Would also help if you know, had big signs that said easement clearing or something, so that maybe we could avoid the phone calls, but.
Public utility.
I just don't want the police called on somebody who's going to, to going back to make sure that, what
Yeah.
the scope of the job is. That's, we want to try to, just make that not happen.
All we're planning to do with these are, generally our easements are 20 feet wide. We're only gonna cut maybe a 10-foot wide path. Not the
Okay.
entire 20 feet, just enough to get equipment or a vehicle back in there if we had to. We don't need to, get a huge wide path for this. Very good, just where the manhole.
Gotcha. All right, does Bill, do you have any questions, comments?
I don't think so at this point. I'm fine.
All right, very good. If everyone's
Yep.
good?
Yep.
Yes,
Chair, do you want to move to item 5A and just do that now?
well, 5A and 7A.
If you'd like.
If that's-
Sure,
that's-
they all involve the same.
Do we need to amend or are we just,
I think you're okay since it's on the agenda.
okay,
If you'd like to, you can certainly make a motion to go to section 5 and come back.
If
to 4.
we
I
don't-
really think it's
okay,
necessary.
if we don't think it's necessary, then,
on the agenda.
so is
I think
staff
that's a good
okay?
idea.
All right,
Exactly,
so-
I recommend the same, thank you.
All right, so at this time, if the board has nothing else, and John, Preston, you guys are good?
Yep.
We're gonna, quote unquote, skip ahead, in the agenda to 5A. This is a subdivision land development project. It's a informational only item. Any action will be taking place at a future business meeting. We're talking about Walters Road and New Galena Road, the CNBTJSA, God, I love that acronym, fee and escrow waiver request. Who would like to take point on this?
So the sewer authority is asking for two waivers. One, a waiver from posting of financial security in conjunction with the construction project, and a waiver of any associated stormwater management fees.
Okay. And, would you like to comment?
I think the fees we can save will help us out.
Okay.
Just asking.
Board, do you have any comments or questions, or do we want to just direct staff to prepare the appropriate documentation?
I have no questions or comments. Happy to support them.
Bill,
I'm fine with it. Go ahead.
very good. Then,
It was just following past
Practice.
protocol, past practice,
Right.
we waive these fees, so.
okay, so then we'll see documentation for our September.
2 weeks.
Yeah, in 2 weeks. Okay. Very good. All right, so that concludes 5A. We will now jump to 7A. This is an action item. This is a motion, and I now need to switch over. Give me a second. Why am I getting an ad? All right, so at this time, I will be looking for a motion from the board to approve a deed of easement with the Chapel New Britain Township Joint Sewer Authority for a township-owned parcel per the attachments.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll
Oh,
second.
Bill seconded. Are there any comments or questions in regards to this action item? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
Very good. Thank you, John. Thank you,
Thank you.
Preston.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming this
Yep.
morning.
Mm.
Look forward to seeing the facilities. Just watch your step. All right, so we'll take like a short little, I'm assuming 4-minute break so that you can,
Do you want to entertain 5B since we've got
That
someone
was fine.
here for 1, 2, 3 Creek Road?
do we,
You can do that.
I will.
Okay, all right. So then, at this time, we will be moving to 5B on the agenda for those in attendance and online. Again, this is a subdivision land development project. It's informational only at this time. Any possible action will be taken place at a future business meeting. The item on the agenda is 123 Creek Road. If you could please give us your name and I guess titles and go ahead and proceed.
Thank you. Well, I'm Dave LaBerge. My wife Melanie and I own 123 Creek Road. This is Paige Maj. She's with the engineering firm that we have retained to help us with this project. Our request this morning is really straightforward, at least in my mind. We're looking for a reallocation of, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, and Craig, good morning, you might know this as well. I'm pretty sure it's 0.08 acres of our current conservation easement, and reallocate that to another part of the property for the sole purpose of putting a culvert through to allow me to have access to the 10 acres of the property that I cannot access today, other than driving around Creek Road to Callow Hill Road to East Peace Valley Road. Right. I have done that in the past as I've removed some trash, garbage piles in the back. It's not a good solution, nor does it allow me to access that property for recreational purposes. As you think about this in preparation for your upcoming meeting, you're going to perhaps come across the fact that I was in front of, I'm going to say this wrong and I apologize, the planning board last
Planning
August
Commission.
25th of 2021. The ask at that time was to subdivide a lot in the back of the property. I'm not here to talk about that today simply because I don't know that's a reality. At the time, my wife and I we had bought this property with the intentions to split off a piece for our daughter and maybe our son. So the last thing I want to do is leave here and have you guys think I'm not being straight with you and upfront. So complete transparency, I promise you're always going to have from me, is my son is a current bachelor. He's not moving down here. Our daughter, her family, my son-in-law, our 2 grandkids live with us. We want to get them a home in New Britain Township. The reason I'm not ready to talk about a subdivision or even know if we're going to subdivide is simply that the cost of materials is gone exorbitant. We don't know if we can afford to build them a house in the back. And of course, building materials and cost of labor, whatnot, don't know what's going to happen. So my discussion, and that was very good on a phone call during my commitment to Matt is if I come to you someday, and again, I can't say it's clear enough, I don't know that I'm going to for subdivision, would be not 2 lots in the back, but maybe 1 just for our daughter and leave the bulk of that property untouched. So again, getting back to the ask, reallocation of 0.08 acres to put in a culvert for access to the back of that property for lots of good reasons. I also let you know, we do have the PADEP permits in hand to go ahead and do this.
Would you like to say anything or?
I was just going to hand out a reduced size.
Thank you.
Copy. Okay.
Well, she's put on one question. Summary is how I understand everything. Paige, do you still?
Thank
have
you.
a pending subdivision plan that I know he's putting on hold right now? I believe you submitted that to the township. That's why you came to the planning commission. So that's an active project still. So if you, I believe that was submitted through the township and everything. If you want to put that on hold, then you should contact the township to kind of withdraw that application. Or you're going to continue if you hold on to that for the next 6 months, a year. You have escrow over here for that project as well. That's an update from when we had a special staff meeting. So I would recommend, it's up to you to decide to withdraw that application and then resubmit it when you know when you're ready to get started.
Greg, that's a good idea.
You're not protected. I mean, you are protected from zoning. I know you don't have an attorney here, but you have an active application, so he's protected from zoning.
I don't see any zoning changes. You'd be fully aware of them, probably, considering your activity in the community, but that's kind of pending. So that is kind of hanging over us.
Okay,
So as you go forward with some other stuff on your property, which I know you know, like you said, described today, that is still hanging there, and I have to advise them of, you know, your path is going to that area. We have an active plan. It may be simpler just to request from the zoning office to withdraw that application, but you can advise them that offline. And if you have questions, talk to the township zoning officer, or Matt or myself, we can help guide you, but it sounds like you're not ready to do that. It's
no,
just-
I'm not, Greg, and Greg, I never would have thought of that in 100 years, quite honestly, because what I asked Paige to do probably 3 months ago is let's shelve that subdivision. Let's focus on this, because I'd really like to get this built during the dry season. So we disrupt as little as possible getting into those wetlands back there.
I hear you. So that's up to you guys to decide.
Okay.
I'll contact you.
Yep.
And the board, I don't think they have the plan now, and it's hard to see everything. It's a big piece of property, but just describe, show them where you got your DEP permit. We've approved that already in our office in the township. And what's your plan on, what's he planning on doing?
So, yes, the DEP permit, which is a general permit 7 is in hand. It's for there's a 12-foot wide by 30-foot long, crossing here. There's a 60-inch, CMP pipe that's proposed with gravel over top, at the crossing area. That's the extent of the work that's going to be done. The other portion of the path from one edge of the conservation easement to the other is just shown for informational purposes, that would be the path of travel for your lawn equipment or maintenance equipment. It's not anticipated that that's going to be paved at most in some areas where it's wet. There might be some wood chips or something else put down, something pervious, just to stabilize the area in areas that might be.
So let me jump in there. That was gonna be my question, what material? Because I kicks you in the stormwater management. If it's gravel or paved, that's the issue we run into with long flag lots with long driveways. And it's a lot of impervious, so it'll need to be clear when you approve all this that it can't be impervious material unless you apply for a stormwater permit. I don't know if you want to go down that direction.
No.
If it's some type of you know, mulch or grass, whatever, you are out of the impervious, just that gravel area that will be considered. That's part of your crossing. So I just, you know, 6 foot becomes 10 foot, 10 foot becomes gravel, mulch becomes gravel, and that's, we have this so much in this area.
Right.
Where and also now you're, you know, you're increasing your impervious coverage. So that's why I was talking about the other subdivision part. If you were, then control that and design that to account for that. But it sounds like you're not moving forward. So you need to label that then. Once you don't need to resubmit now, but once the board takes action, that'll be probably a condition that I recommended. They make sure that's not impervious material. So if you want to someday, then maybe you need to work with the solicitor's office on some language so you don't get caught again like you did on this one where it's not contemplated. I
Right.
know that's your issue from the last couple of years is some of the stuff wasn't contemplated. So if you think you're gonna do that, then you gotta be upfront now and just say that because that kicks you into stormwater management again. If it's gravel and paved.
That little stream back there is a funny thing, because it's either dry or there's 4 foot of water just raging downhill to Callow Hill. You've seen it on Callow Hill with the pipe the town had to put in about 2 years ago, that storm came in. And I can't imagine ever, let me say it more clear. I had always planned to put in wood chips back there. I want to keep it natural. If it's that wet where we can't traverse it, just walking across it when it's really wet, then we're gonna drive around. I just can't imagine. But look, I want to be respectful to the conservation easement. It's there for a reason. We get it. We did it for the sole purpose of not having to have a basin when we built our house. That was twice the size of what it is now. It's not a complaint. It's reality. You know, that section of property we're talking about is downhill on the other side of the stream. And so water comes through there. So if we can't, you can't transverse it, we're just not gonna put in a road back there.
Yeah,
That's what we're gonna come in from the other way.
I just want to give you the public forum, my recommendation. It has nothing to do with the easement. If that easement was never there, I'd say it's speech.
Right.
They have stormwater ordinance. It's very strict. That's a long, path that
Right.
turns into a driveway someday. Just want you to be aware of that. So
Thank
it's
you.
nothing to do with the easement part.
What's the width of the crossing that you're planning on putting in?
It's 12 foot wide and 30 feet long.
Okay,
The path then narrows down. It's just the path itself is 6 feet.
So where is the actual conservation easement swap? I
So
can't see that.
the orange outline is the conservation easement today.
Mhm.
So there's gonna be, it's less than 1/10 of an acre. It would be amended, removed from conservation easement here for the path and the crossing. And then it would be replaced down here by shifting the conservation easement line.
Okay.
What's
So
the
It's the
dimension?
dotted line.
Dotted line.
yeah, okay.
Probably, no one's probably can see it.
Yeah,
because
on
it-
there, down
Yeah,
there.
on
Yeah,
that.
I was looking at the red,
it's
and I'm
gonna
going,
be shifted about 8.5 feet.
Yeah, We're only talking 8.5 feet.
We're talking about a line that's like
Mhm.
450 feet long and then shifted. 8.5 feet.
Is the semi-rectangle there on the right side, is that the entire conservation easement there?
No, it's everything
on the outside.
here.
Oh, on the out,
So, yeah, here's, this is Roscoe's existing home and such. So this is all outside conservation.
okay,
This is all outside.
but okay, now I get it.
Everything
Okay.
else is in.
So there are actually two unconnected conservation,
Well,
the
now
two-
they're connected. They're gonna. be
yeah, the two
unconnected.
building plots were unconnected.
yeah.
Now they will be connected with a little bit extra down the bottom.
Correct.
Yes.
So
If he
Yes.
goes through. with-
Vehicles could
Yes.
traverse from one side of the
Yes.
street to another without going through the conservation.
Is the width of 12-foot designed so that in the future you could run a car or motor
Well,
vehicle?
I don't plan to run a car through there at all. I'm gonna go around. But the culvert pipe was engineered big enough so I could get my lawn tractor back in that property.
Okay.
Yes. And I'll say the map is very confusing because I'm chuckling here because when I signed this thing 4 years ago, whenever it was, I actually thought the conservation was on the outside of that rectangular area as it is outside of where we built our house. So I'm like, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in stuff, but I've learned far more than I ever cared to know.
So I think that's, do you have any?
I do have a question. So, if we're here before the board, at a formal, meeting, later this month, what will we need to bring, to that? Do we need a formal description of the changes that time?
If the board is willing to do the swap and staff's recommending they do that, it's not a big impact of this project and it makes sense. I think it's helpful for them. The plan needs to have a detail, the new legal description. I mean, fortunately, you have to rewrite that boundary. The plan exhibit, like there's no dimensions on the plans. So Sean and I were just talking. I need to know 8.5 feet by that. You can do an exhibit of each area and not this. You can still submit the overall plan, and then those will go to our office. We'll review the legal, and then they'll prepare an amended agreement. That's why I wanted to know if there's anything else you want to amend. Now's the time while he's working on this amendment. And you'll work with his office then. I don't know if that'll be ready for their meeting, but I think they just have to make a motion. That's why I was hesitating whether subject to, those documents, that document can come back in front of you later.
It can be approved at the meeting without all the documents being
Right.
finalized, but in order to get the documents moving, Craig's right, we need to have legal description amended. We need to have the actual dimensions on the drawing so we can see it and evaluate.
What I think we've done for the packet in 2 weeks is blown up exhibits of those two areas to swap.
and the document is just a modification of documents already been signed, executed, that'll happen later.
And that's
That
very
makes sense.
fair. It is, that's very fair. Thank you. Because what it allows me to do is I have contracts waiting to be signed for the construction and for the materials, including the pipe. I'm holding all of that. So, you know, if I'm blessed enough that you're able to agree with me that this makes sense, then once we have the board's approval or order, but won't do a thing until we have the documentation fully
That makes sense.
executed in place.
So really just those exhibits, you can work what you need and I will help you out and you can be done with it next week. All you do is blow up this plan, and provide some dimensions.
And the reason that this was on this agenda was to come before the board to gauge whether or not the board would be interested in moving forward with this. We have not gone forward with, you know, actually reviewing this and doing a lot of technical analysis because we didn't want to do that. And if the board was not interested in moving forward with it. So if the board is, we can then work with the applicant and their professional staff to move this forward as quickly as we can. So we're looking for the board to say, yes, you're okay with this or no, because if not, we can't move forward. You know, there's nothing else to discuss.
Board,
I would be in favor of this.
I have a question. We've been approached to do this sort of thing in other spots. What makes this different?
The last one that was discussed in our work session, I believe was the one where the spider lanternfly attacked and destroyed a bunch of area that was preserved. And then they would like to build on that area now, pool, and exchange with other area on the site. And I thought that was, and you supported that. I thought.
yeah, we did. There was one that we did that.
There
yeah.
was one, we
Yeah,
did
yeah.
that. The last one that
New Galena Road.
Matt brought up, we
That
did
one
not
you haven't-
support.
You haven't discussed that publicly, I don't, I was only handling once you've approved.
Okay.
Or voted on. There's a lot, this comes up a lot.
Yeah, that's why.
Typically do not get.
The last one we discussed, they wanted to swap with
Right,
in the front of the property along the road, which we
Right.
said,
no,
we're not interested
Okay.
in.
The last one I think that got this far has been the one where there's either an ash board issue or spiral lamp. I don't know if that's ever was done and the guy that got recorded, but that was discussed in public. And well, there's other people that requested this, but this is a different, to me, this is a different situation.
yeah,
I
I'm just,
support it. I think it makes sense. We just have to have limitations on what that trail looks like.
Yeah,
Yes.
my
Yes.
question was, can we limit the size? I know the stream crossing has to be what it has to be to manage the flow, but can we put restrictions on the size of the path?
Sure.
I mean-
I think you have, that's why he's here. I agree with everything you said tonight. I just know how things happen, or it's sold and someone else comes in and does.
I just don't want, I don't want, I'd like to, if we're going to be allowing a stream crossing through a conservation easement, I'd like to see a restriction on some width of path
That's fine.
and disturbance so that there's no creep in the future.
Let me add one more thing that wasn't just maybe for your edification. The reason the easement is this large is because your ordinance that we're working on required him to do stormwater management for the whole 12%, I believe, of that whole tract of land. And that basin would be 10 times the size. So your ordinance contemplates that, says you can deed restrict it. Now, he also has natural resources. So typically, you've been getting all the ones with natural resources. This could, if he had no creek and no woodlands, it could still look identical because that's the area that they don't have to control for stormwater management because it's preserved. There's no improvements. That's why I was a little worried about the trail. That's so, and I tried to talk about this last meeting. There's two reasons why you have conservation easement. Sometimes you don't know. I had to ask Janine, do you know the percentage? They don't, but it was preservation of natural resources and deed restriction for stormwater management. He has every right to undo that if he wants to go through the approval process to undo deed restriction of stormwater management. But that basin you mentioned is going to be a monster because he owns a lot of land. And as he subdivides, all of a sudden his requirement gets smaller. So now it's 12% of just this area, not this area. So there's some areas where there's no natural resources that's deed restricted, just so it's not all 100% floodplain or wetlands or woodlands. And maybe that was not clear. The other ones that you have seen have been natural resources, 100% woodlands. And they want to swap that out. This is not the case.
So
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, Greg, thank you for that, because this is not a complaint, so please, if I choose my words poorly, I apologize in advance. The conservation easement is here because when we got ready to build, to Craig's point, that basin was have to be enormous, because the town code requires the whole 17 acres be serviced by that basin. The conservation easement on the lower half, it is downhill. And if water would have to flow uphill after crossing a stream to work its way into that basin. And so I came to town hall, and there may be an email circulating. Janine was very kind to circulate that to kind of document that conversation. And I came to town hall. And I said, guys, this is a problem. So I sat at the desk out front there and I said, look at the size of this basin to service the property. And the three people I spoke with acknowledged the problem, and I respect this as well, that you can't write a town code or ordinance or law to fit every single circumstance. It needs to, deviations need to come to people to help work through these things. And the three ideas that came up with at that meeting back in 2018 was subdivide now. Wasn't ready then, don't know if I'm ever going to be. Or come before the board and ask for an exception. Or put a conservation easement in, because they looked at it and said, Dave, you're right, water can't flow past the stream and then uphill into that basin. It's a language problem. And I went this route because it was the simplest, most cost-efficient, time-efficient manner, and it did all the right things. So you'll even note in the conservation easement, we have an ability to come back to you folks and ask for your consideration to do something like this. Recognizing that if we ever come back and say you want to subdivide, whatever we would do back there, we'd have to build stormwater management to handle that piece of property and start all over again. And that's okay. I respect that process. So Craig, I think you very adequately described. We're going through, I just want to throw a little more color on it. It's a direct result of town people being very helpful, working in good faith to help me solve a problem. That's all that was for.
I'm in favor of this.
I say move forward with it, yeah.
Bill?
I'm in favor of it also. I think it's a minor change.
Okay.
But I agree with Greg, we need it
Well,
buttoned
That's
up,
what
so
we
it,
need to-
we have
Yeah.
a direction, so.
All right.
Before I leave, I would like to thank Ryan. The good news is you guys did a great job fixing that underground stream coming up in front of my place. The bad news is, and Chief, you'll note this as well, we didn't realize how good of a speed bump that was to control traffic. Thank you for getting that done.
All
Thank
right.
you very much. Folks. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
so are you asking us to remove the repair and make potholes or?
Potholes back.
I want to go, but actually never bothered me. Dad's bedroom in front of the house, he would hear in the winter people banging their cars into that all night. I was dealing with things. Thank you very much.
All right, well, I had originally intended to have like a short little break before we went to the capital plan. Well, I don't need that now. So anyway, so we will take a 5-minute recess while we get set up and ready for the capital plan presentation.
Now you can see like it's all done.
When I looked at the agenda, I'm like, that's 20 minutes of coffee, I'll be fine. I can take a break here. And it's like, no.
Oh, not gonna happen.
When Matt suggested swapping them out, I was like, Matt, no.
We need a break. We go get some more fruit.
Oh my God, this croissant is amazing. It is so good.
I didn't think.
Yes, in December and January,
Where are you going this week?
Portugal,
Oh, my goodness. Lisbon
Yeah.
or?
Lisbon and the Algarves.
Very nice.
Algarve,
Very
Yeah.
nice. That is a trip Lisa and I hope to actually make in tears for our
I'll give you all the,
20th or 20th. We wanted to do Spain and Portugal. No,
there's a lot to do. There's just, I'm just taking it a very calm look at it. So just,
Mhm.
we have somebody coming in to look after the house and the cat. And it's like, now my husband wants to clean. And then we have someone coming next month from Australia. Now my husband wants to paint. I'm
Oh,
like,
goodness.
really? Really?
All right, we're gonna join the meeting back in progress as Matt is
Playing with the,
walking away.
Matt is playing with the lights.
Yep.
Is Bill back online?
Mhm.
Bill, you here?
I'm here.
All right. So we will continue with our agenda at this time. Why it keeps logging me out completely, I have no idea. 5-year capital improvement plan. Mr. West, if you would like to take the floor. PowerPoint is not.
advancing.
Well, no, it's not
Oh, it's not advancing on the computer and not on.
the screen.
Now, they moved a box down there on the floor. Did that have anything to do with anything?
It's still there.
There we go.
Oh, right.
In the zone.
Where
Weird
does,
spot here.
over by Chief.
Yeah, stand behind Chief.
Awful for presenting. I like to move around when I talk, so. 5-year capital improvement plan. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present to you all today. I am really personally proud of this document, and I just, I know I have a thank you slide at the end, but as we start, I just wanted to say I wouldn't be able to be here today presenting this without my staff and the capital planning committee. Those two groups of people really helped me bring this to the finish line. So shout out to everyone involved. Thank you. It was an 8-month period. We started, I think I looked yesterday, I don't know, right, Sunday. I looked, I think my first email to the capital planning committee was late January. Setting up a meeting. At the same time, simultaneously, we talked internally with township staff to talk about how we wanted to go about doing this thing. Historically speaking, we've had some capital plans, but they did not go to the level of comprehension or comprehensiveness that the capital plan does. So I'm really excited about that. As I walk through this presentation, I'll explain that a little more. What this capital plan is, it's a planning document. What it isn't is a funding document. I think you've heard me all say that. To you personally, it's not a funding document. These projects that are included in the capital plan are then to be used in the next budget making season. So you can see if the board entertains this in 2 weeks, approves and adopts the capital improvement plan, staff is already in the process of looking at the capital expenditures that are in the first year's column and integrating them into the first draft of the 2023 budget. That, the budget, is the funding document. What's this over here, though? Of course, it can't be, black and white. There's always got to be a wrinkle. There's always got to be something different. Here's the asterisk, and I put a big asterisk there. The American Rescue Plan, those funds that the township received through ARPA, $1.2 million. Staff incorporated those funds into the capital improvement plan. You'll see that in the document. We wanted to use those funds for primarily capital expenditures as a good shot in the arm to get our capital plan moving forward. This is a short window of time. You'll also see that in the capital improvement plan. We have to have those dollars allocated and spent by 2025. So that's the only thing that's different. If the board does consider this in 2 weeks and adopts this capital improvement plan, staff will actually be able to move forward with those things that are listed in the American Rescue Plan, because we have those dollars already. They're already in our general fund. They're ready to spend.
So that's the only thing that's different between, you know, is it a planning document or funding document? It's this weird thing that'll be in the capital plan for the next 3 years. After that, ARPA goes away, and then it'll be strictly a planning document, not a funding document, right? So don't lose sight of that. And we'll talk about that more when we look at those projects. And when the board considers it 2 weeks, we'll also take a special look at the American Rescue Plan and whether or not any changes to that that the board would like to entertain. Again, planning document. These numbers are not set in stone. These numbers are good estimates. They're not everything. So let's start with the definitions. What is a capital expense? Here is this thing, this widget. In order for something to be defined as a capital expense, through working with the capital planning committee, we came up with this definition. It has to have a lifespan of more than 1 year. And it's not an if, it's an and, must have a one-time cost of $5,000. This is pretty standard, lifespan of greater than 1 year. This, the cost greater than, every municipality is different. Some go lower. One of my former municipalities, $1,000, right? Because the scale, the universe of those capital expenses that we had in a much smaller municipality, you're not going to get a lot that are over 5,000. Some municipalities go to 10,000, some go to 50,000. So as we looked at the entire list of things to be considered for a capital plan, since it's dynamic, we're able to say, okay, if this cost is greater than 5,000, how many projects would that be? And we believed that, and as did the capital planning committee, moved to approve that the cost greater than 5,000 was the sweet spot. Anything less, you just get way too many projects and the capital plan will become unwieldy. So that's a capital expense. Any questions on that? Because from this point on, we're going to continue to move into each segment so you can see how it was built. So you take that capital expense, use that definition as the criteria to build a capital inventory. This is the lion's share of staff. Every department head worked with their staff to identify those things that were the highest priority. Anything that meets this definition of capital expense, put it on the list. So we created this giant capital inventory list, 208 unique items, township-wide. Now, this was a snapshot in time. Given that we hadn't ever gone through this methodology until now, this was a learning experience for staff. How to identify those things. Is it 100%? No, we're going to miss something. We are going to miss something. We already identified a couple of projects. Oh my gosh, we forgot that one. The way this capital improvement plan is set up is that it's going to be reviewed on an annual basis. It's a living, breathing thing, just for that reason. Because we're going to forget some things. We're going to forget to identify a project here, or maybe a project, maybe it falls off. Maybe it's no longer a project. That's the beauty and advantage of having this capital inventory in an Excel spreadsheet in a living, breathing document. We then took that capital inventory and staff went through the exercise of categorizing them and prioritizing them. So they're not just these things living in space, hanging out on an Excel spreadsheet. They actually have real data associated with them. Not only that, the estimated costs of those projects were added. So you take that capital inventory. Now we're getting into the weeds of the capital inventory. We came up with 3 different categories. So if you look, categorized, right? Categorized. Here are our categories: staff, maintenance, and capital. Since these are all the things that staff has identified for that need to be done for the township that meets that definition of the capital expense, not all of those things were true capital widgets, things. This thing versus cleaning the bathroom, right? Thing versus a process. That other thing would be maintenance, staff related things, different We wanted to focus solely on those 166 capital items. Moving forward, that capital inventory list will continue to be updated. That's the thing, that's the living, breathing document that staff and the capital improvement plan or the capital planning committee will use to update every annual capital improvement plan. We take those capital expenses, 166 of them, and prioritize them. We use high, medium, low, and low. This first round of a capital improvement plan is only looking at the high priority items. There are 57 items that made the list for this first capital improvement plan. We're only focusing on those. This capital inventory was not included. It's long, it's detailed. If anybody's interested in looking at it and reviewing it, stop on by, I'll show you the spreadsheet, or, make it available to you also. Once we take, I know it's a lot of buckets. Once we take the categories and priorities, we then move them into unique buckets. Since this is a 5-year capital plan, we have 5 bucket years. This first one spans 2022 and 2023. Since we're talking about it at the beginning of the year, the years are split over 2 different years, 2022 to 2023. As I was putting this presentation together, I'll tell you when I was doing that last night. It made more sense to me as I was processing this thing, going through this first year, how this capital plan interacts with the budget. Moving forward, we might consider changing this to the same budget year moving. That's going to be that next budget. If it's going to be linked to that budget, I think it would make more sense for us because it gets kind of confusing having it in these years that are spanning. That's if we were going to adopt it in July, and then if it was its own standalone document, we already had the budget worked out from the previous years. We're not at that point yet. So I think moving forward, starting with 2023, we might consider changing this so it's going to be for 2024, 5, 6, 7, make it link up with that budget document. So those were the first buckets that we looked at, years. And then the other buckets, the other 5 buckets were the funds, and this is capital F, funds, general fund accounting, municipalities. You put actual real money in these funds. We looked at only those capital funds. And these are the 4, there's the asterisk, let's ignore the asterisk. We have 4 capital related funds. Those were the ones that we looked at as we discussed the funding opportunities where we should put those expenses into the budget, which fund they should go into. This American Rescue Plan is the oddball because that is not a capital fund, that sits in our general fund. Always going to be the asterisk. Any questions so far? Right? I don't know, make your eyes bleed. This is from the capital improvement plan to show you the summary, what it looks like. If you would like to look at how that looks in reality, I have that here from the capital plan. It looks something like this. You can't see the detail. I just switched over to these multifocal contact lenses too. Up front. Now I can actually see here, but it does something weird out here now. Look at the capital improvement plan. It's on our website. You can see where each of these items, all of the high priority, 57 high priority items allocated. Here's the buckets, here are the years. And then here are the buckets of the funds. So that's reality showing how the buckets created this capital improvement plan. And this too is from the capital improvement plan, and this is just a summary sheet looking at total recommended expenses over the 5 buckets. What it doesn't show you is the buckets of the funds. You'd have to go into the capital improvement plan and look at where those nuggets of expenses actually fall. We also looked at where they fall on the department, admin, parks and rec, police, and public works. We're looking at a total of just under $7 million of recommended investments over the next 5 years. What's the benefit of this capital improvement plan? This thing right here. It's dynamic. It lives and breathes. It's not just a one and done. It's not just a snapshot. The challenge is that it is a snapshot in time when we identify those projects, because we need that at that point to move forward. But as we go and say, oh my goodness, we forgot. And Daryl and I were just talking about the trail that links, if you've walked it, it's like 2 feet wide. It goes across through over there. You ever walked it? I've walked it maybe once a month. Forest Park Pheasant Run, thank you. That's a trail that needs some love. It needs updating. It traverses township property. We forgot that wasn't in the plan. That'll be a part of next year's plan. Okay, what projects? We keep track of these things that we missed through this process. They're going to be added to next year's list. We're going to look at what we did, what was approved for this year, replace those things, add it, reprioritize it, and next year's you'll see a different list of those things. That's the nature of this capital improvement plan. It's a living, breathing, dynamic document. You have these dynamic worksheets that not only show what things are as of now, like the capital improvement plan, the piece of paper. We can plug and chug data to show, okay, what would a change in developers fee in lieu of, how would that change the funding for Parks and Rec? How would a potential millage increase in the general capital improvement fund, what would that potential millage rate be? Plug and chug, see what it would do over time. And is data informed? Those of you who know me know that I love data informed decision making. We can't have data informed decision making without having these files at our fingertips that are not just well thought out and designed and created, but then they need to continue to be living, breathing documents. That's going to be the next challenge next year, to update it in that updating process. It shouldn't take us as long to go through the development of the plan. We have the structure of the plan set. Now the updating, we've never gone through an update before. So that'll be a learning experience, but I don't anticipate it will be too long of a process. Here is that process. The board will see it on their agenda in 2 weeks for consideration. If they adopt it, then staff takes those recommendations in the capital improvement plan into the 2023 budget process, which is well underway. You can get an update on that momentarily. And then moving forward, the idea is that we work on this. These are the 2 big documents that are living, breathing documents that will be updated on an annual basis. Capital plan, beginning of the year, budget, end of the year. Again, thank you all. This was a learning experience for those who were involved. I couldn't have done it without you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the board's understanding the importance of having a capital improvement plan. And this came from the Board of Supervisors' direction to reinstitute the capital planning committee. Thank you. Any questions? Great.
Yes, Bill?
I have no questions at this. I will have to see how it works with the upcoming meeting in a couple of weeks and then the budget as it moves forward.
That's right. Good. So it's, again, planning document. And then the real conversations happen with the budget making of funding.
Yeah.
The board might choose not to fund any of the, you might move to adopt the capital improvement plan. But the reality of it is that maybe we won't have enough funds to actually do all of it. That's a part of it becoming a living, breathing document cycle. That what did the board authorize? What projects were authorized and completed? Next year, we'll continue to bring them in front of you and become, wash, rinse, repeat.
So does anyone on the board have any questions?
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Were there any surprises of projects that we should be looking at that were not really in front of us that we should have been working on?
That's a good question. I don't, my experience, department heads, feel free to, chime in. I don't think there were any surprises because these were things that they all already knew about that hadn't been addressed for many years. They, oh yeah, yep, I can rattle off everything that we need to do. So no surprises. No major surprises, I should say.
Any other questions?
No.
So I guess, so then the procedure going forward, for next year, I'm guessing then that, in May or so, you'll be putting out to the department heads, what's your 2028? Is that how you're planning on doing it? Like a couple months before July?
My department head would go, yes, May, that would be great. No, it's gonna be January.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, right.
okay,
Yeah, that's how I roll.
okay.
Early on, January. I want everybody to own it. I want it to be.
For adoption by July and then, okay,
Yes,
all right.
yep.
Just so that we as a board understand,
And,
how the process is gonna work. Yeah.
Or add to Matt's point as he's presenting, when we talk about funding, the board having the decision point of whether to fund these things. If we approve this and the board chooses certain things that are in the 2022-23 not to fund, in January, we start talking about, we need to put them in 2024 and start
Right,
having
okay.
that conversation.
Yeah.
That would be how these two processes to me link together. Just my
that's
added
good.
input.
And the other thing I wanted to talk about with funding, if you look at the capital improvement plan, there are some really big expenses that we put out in the next several years. One is Keller Road Bridge. We need to talk about that, what we're going to do with that. And the other is major police department renovations. Those two things is a more nuanced and more involved discussion about what we should do and about where we should fund those things from. If you look at that and cross-reference it with our debt service capital fund, we're gonna be getting lighter debt service in a year and a half. We can have these conversations of what is the priority of the board? Do we want to group together the major renovations of the police department, make a decision on Keller Road, and fund those things through a bond or other lending type? So we get, it's not just it has to all be through the Fund 18 capital improvement plan. We can also look at long-term debt restructuring. We're going to be getting lighter on that. In the near future, how can we integrate these much larger projects that might be more beneficial for long-term debt obligations? So that's something that we'll also consider moving forward. Right, Beth, you had a question?
Yeah, and it's not really part of your presentation, but since I have other forms and the capital planning, I'm looking at the current funds and millage rates. And we have a capital improvement and equipment fund listed with 0 mills. So we've not been funding that.
Correct. I don't know when it was that way since my tenure.
Okay.
And those are the conversations I'd like to have in the budget making process.
Yeah.
And how do we want to fund this? Where should we put that millage? Reallocate? I don't know. That's coming.
Wow.
This is to get the conversation, to prime the pump, to get the conversation started.
Okay.
Is
One thing
everyone, nope, sorry. Was that Bill?
Is, Matt, you say that our, long-term debt is actually gonna be going down in a couple of years?
Yeah, about a year and a half. The street.
But I think that's somewhat of a misnomer because yes, we'll stop paying for the public works loan. But then I think the other loan that we got a couple of years ago, that payment amount kicks up after that point.
Okay, good. That's a really good point. That's the next process, looking at what the amortization schedules are of existing debt. If they are going up. Thanks, Bill. Good.
Are there any other questions?
No, not about the capital plan.
So everyone is happy with the plan as presented?
Mhm.
Is
Yes.
everyone okay with going forward with adoption at the next business meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
So is there specific language that's gonna be?
Probably.
Yeah, I will, yeah.
I'll get that worked out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if we do it through, I don't know what the, yeah,
Never done it before,
I've never
so
done
it'll
it
be
before.
first.
Yeah. So
We'll get it.
public
Yeah.
comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that
most of, I think none of you were here last time I was here talking about the budget supplement. But, it's been a long time that you've needed to have a multi-year capital improvement plan. And I just want to say, so overdue, congratulations. And also to, I mean, this, from a staff perspective, budgeting was my thing. And, look really closely beyond the 1 year. Look out and really, because that's going to be really important. The numbers are going to be a lot fuzzier, of course, but you can pass judgment policy wise as to whether you agree to those things and you value them, you know, enough to really, you know, have the staff keep working on it.
Well, we have to
Congratulations.
thank our staff and our manager for spearheading this, and it has been not done in the near past, and we hope to change that going forward, because planning is projecting is a very important part of municipalities' obligations. So we're starting down the right path.
Name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Daryl Cardone, property resident, New Britain. I'm also the finance director for World. Great job. I love that. We do one, not as thorough as that one, but smaller, but it's great. It's a great way to plan. But I just like Matt pointed out, I just like to add some things to and say in front of the elected officials. So I talked to Matt, I talked to Mike about the trail. We used to do a walk to school event, and being in Britain resident, we would meet here and do the walk to school event. I think it's October or late September. I walk the kids, and that's the only 2 times I've ever been on that trail. It's very discouraging to see ill repair, and it's I know a lot of people use it. So I just wanted to bring that one up. Also, Iron Hill Road connection to Peace Valley. I think that should be added to your list. I mean, there's all, if you get to Bucks County Bike and Hike people here, come here, you can have 30 people here asking that if you want. And Keller Road Bridge. Have you guys ever spent 1.5 million on the bridge in Britain? And
We've had culvert experience.
for one bridge or culvert, that's kind of a lot of money. What's your traffic count on? I'm a finance person, so.
We've done that. I don't have the numbers.
30. They're really worth spending on taxpayer, $1.5 million.
The question is not traffic, it's emergency services access. So the question becomes, if we close that road and there is a disturbance somewhere else that shuts down a road, do we still have access adequately for ambulance, fire, and police to maintain service that is commensurate with what a resident expects? So that's where it becomes problematic with just discussing closing that bridge. That's kind of what we've run into.
Cornwall, I didn't dare get up, speak up in that one, because you were here for that.
Yeah.
He was here for that. There's people here for blood when you guys were suggesting.
Yes.
Putting up access.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah, you were here for that, yes.
1.5 million is a lot of money for 30 to 40 cars a day.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah, it's
we're
the
aware.
It's
emergency
the
access.
emergency access is the concern.
All right.
So,
I know this isn't a capital, but I go to Peace Valley Park almost every day, and I go down Chapman Road, which is in New Britain Township, and that road's a piece of crap. And you guys should have that. I know it's not a cap, it's probably on the road paving project. I know residents there don't want it fixed because people like me, they go to.
Are you talking about Chapman off of Ferry?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that on any paving project in the next century?
It is now.
It's tentatively going to be on there next year. The latest development, we're waiting for that final house to be built. I know that the road took a big hit with all the construction equipment from that project, the museum. Yeah.
It's huge. Yeah, this is, I'm on that road a lot, it's just, it's in back. I know that residents, when I talked to Eileen, she said she had residents, so they didn't want to improve because.
So
it's a street. Yeah.
Those issues, I voted against being mentored.
Can we tear up Park Avenue then? Is that?
I just wanted to. Just add a few.
Thank you.
So he brought up an interesting thing. So put a note in your head about Old Iron Hill, and we'll talk about that later in the meeting. All right? But I don't want to clutter with capital improvement about that. All right?
And road paving,
It's not capital.
we have
improvement.
not needed any roads
Yeah.
in the capital plan because that is in development, doing a road paving plan.
Yeah.
We're hoping to get end of this year, beginning of next year.
Yeah, we're in shop out from being the finance director, we're doing it, and then stormwater meetings, I mean, Ryan, you're probably crying about that. You know, we're talking $5 million in debt just for shop.
Just for storm.
Just for stormwater, you know, tear up a road, put in the stormwater pipe and repave and it's expensive.
All right. So if the board is then happy, then we
Mhm.
are directing you to proceed with the
Thank you all.
final
Appreciate it.
implementations.
Thank you for listening.
Next is budget.
Yes, I see that. All righty. Did everybody in the professional side get a good nap? Because now we're moving into budget.
Now.
They're using their time efficiently.
Listen, you guys can do fantasy football later.
They're completely ignoring you.
They're not responding to your insults because
I
they're
know.
not
They're
listening
not
to you.
listening at all. Okay. Is that what you call it?
Do you have anything to throw in?
Throw those
Craig?
balls back a bit here.
All right, so now the next item on the agenda is a presentation or introduction to the 2023 budget by our finance director.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Just to follow up on Matt's excellent presentation. Not as detailed as Matt at this point, but as you know, we're very early on in the budget process. So really what I wanted to talk about today, as far as data collection, and I was glad Matt brought up a good point. I'd really like to talk about this piece here. You're probably familiar with this budget timeline graphic already, but Matt's comment about data informed collection, I feel like was a really good point, or a different way that you would have worded it. Basically what I wanted to talk about was the data process of the requests from different departments and really changes that were made this year going forward that I think will ease the entire data collection process for our staff. So just as a precursor, this was normally the form that was sent out around a little bit earlier around this time in previous, as far back as I could see in SharePoint and everything that was there. This was really the template that was there. As you can see, there's no data. A couple of line items that you would include. You're kind of, not that you're guessing, but you're asking these department heads to just basically, with no prior data, unless you're looking in other places, to really push out what those different requests were. So you send out something like this, give them time to come up with all their different data points. And something like this comes back. And just as hard as it is for you to see that far away, it's that far away and hard to read.
Do you remember that from last year?
Yes, the dark
Yes.
purple. Yes.
So basically, I mean, we're looking at all these, I mean, a lot of these things are the same line item, same description, different points of data, different amounts, notes here. We really wanted to condense that and have a uniform looking budget. As you know, that budget workbook in its own, there's so many different places that data is coming from. So we're really trying to simplify that. And I feel like the simplification process throughout the department, Matt's really preached, and that's the way we're going. So instead of something coming back like this and talking to Chief and Ryan for the most part, since they have the biggest pieces. We sat down and we thought, what would be a different way to go about this and what numbers and things would you want to see? So then we come to something like this, and this is what was passed around to staff. And this was at the end of August. Department heads were given until Friday, end of business Friday, to send this stuff back. So the data has not been aggregated yet, but this is the template that they were really given. So instead of just a blank template, I used the police tab of our workbook because for visual purposes, filled out the whole screen. And it's easier to see. So basically, we're splitting this into 4 different categories. We'll have police, public works, parks and rec, and admin. So as you can see, we're looking at giving different data. So basically, what kind of historic data would you want to see in coming up with your department's budget? So we went back a couple of years, prior year before, and what those approved budget amounts were. So when the memo went out, all we were really requesting was a simple dollar amount here. This column is a drop down of whether you expect to spend what your excess number was this year. We went through, and as this report was run at the end, close to the end of August, we were given year-to-date data as well, so that they could see what type of balance they had left. There's a whole separate section over here for notes. Could not fit into here, but that'll help me going forward in determining where these budget line items were. I think one point that really helps in showing all this data and allowing them to see it is really taking a look at the budget in a whole instead of just a blank template. And these are the dollar amounts I want. And this is all operating expense stuff. Like Matt mentioned, we've been working so hard on the capital items for these past 8-9 months. So those are already in place. So now that we have those, we will add those into the budget as we get further into the process. But this is strictly just operating type stuff. So one thing that we would look to see, I feel, in looking at. Did you say something?
I think he cleared his throat.
Sorry. Sorry, one thing I looked at in the past is the amount of times that I feel budget numbers might have just been simply rolled over. Now, the fact that we're looking at every line item and each department is looking at every line item, if we're not spending, and that's kind of what this column is here, if we're not spending that amount of money, maybe we need to be able to bucket it somewhere else. So this is one, forcing everyone to look at the budget in its entirety and see where that spending is going. And 2, being able to say, well, if some items were budgeted in 21, not 22, but then there might be some spending next to it, maybe we need to reallocate some of these items. So where that really leaves us is this piece here, which we're talking about now, is the updated this work session. The memo and the worksheet went out to everyone with their requests. So going forward, immediate future needs will be scheduling these meetings, which will be coming up in the next week or 2. I will be aggregating all of this budget data for a more thorough discussion and presentation come that first workshop meeting in October.
And we're also planning on having, as we did last year, continuing the tradition of having two of you each to come in and talk to us and review the data prior to that presentation in October. So you can all understand it and see what these numbers are, ask questions, provide input prior to it going out. Also, I want you all to own it and understand the process as well.
Okay. Any other questions or comments or concerns?
Does the board have anything?
Are we going to get it in a more readable form? Is there any way of changing the way the budget is presented this way with this so many columns? And is there any way of making it so it's much more easier to digest and?
Like we kind of did, I'm sorry, with the capital plan as well, in creating, for one example, pivot tables on some type of stuff, it'd be easy to create a summary sheet that's in a more readable format, which we kind of did with the capital plan. I mean, you see all those tons of line items there, so a summary sheet in addition to all of that data would be important and helpful, I think.
It's my intention. I was hoping to have it this year, but we've been working on cleaning up the legibility of that master spreadsheet. The data that you see as part of the budget, if you recall, there are so many tabs, and John mentioned this, there are so many tabs inside of that spreadsheet where there's really good data being collected. Those worksheets are then fed into the master budget worksheet. It was really difficult to navigate those worksheets because there was just so much going on, and it was just so easy to fat finger something or miss something. So we've been taking every item that we bring in this year, staff, salaries, insurances, we've been taking time to reorganize those worksheets to make them easier to maintain. So we know what we are going to be plugging in to minimize errors moving forward. So we've been starting that process on the internal document, which feeds the external document. I'm not confident that we will have the external document in a place that is more digestible, more formatted like the capital improvement plan. I'm hoping next year we will have it. It's easier to understand and read.
But you're moving in that
We are.
direction.
That is a high priority of ours.
Is there any other questions from the board?
No.
Bill?
I'll defer until I see some substance for next year's budget.
Bill wants numbers.
So like I said, we'll get those meetings scheduled within the next week, and then we have actually our monthly management meeting this Thursday. So there will be preliminary talks there, which I'm sure a lot of this stuff will come up there as well. Any questions that I have for each of the departments as I aggregate all that data that they had provided last week. And then we will move forward and see, like Matt mentioned, about the individualized meetings with the board.
Very good.
Actually, I do have another question. Will you be also working on, in conjunction with the capital plan, how we could fund that, some ideas? As part of it, just, we want to adopt it, but then we adopt it this year. Do we know how we're going to look at it? And
Yes, that's going to be a part of the budget
it will be part-
conversation. Yes.
I think that's,
Okay.
yeah, and that's an exercise in plugging in all this data and seeing where we stand. And as we filter out to that bottom line, I feel like then you get a better picture of where that money is going to come from and then what we need to do moving forward.
And what I forgot to talk about in my presentation that links into this also is that you've heard me talk about not having many good foundational documents that we can use to go after grant money. I call it waving at boats. Oh, there goes another boat. Wait about it. Oh, no, because when you go and try to apply for grants for specific things, the first thing they're going to look at, they're going to ask you, I can forward you so many applications. What's your capital plan? What's your facility assessment? They want these foundational documents. If you don't have them, you're not even going to get entertained to review your application. So this is starting to set us up for the long-term success of continuing to go after grant money for projects that can support the capital plan.
Very good. Is there any public comment?
Where's the detail produced? I mean, is it available, not necessarily for me, but for all of you that, you know, what is, how someone comes up with a number for a line item?
So that's basically, when we asked each of the departments to
No, I
come up
know
with
how it's
numbers,
produced, but where, I'm sorry, where is it available?
I don't think any of those documents would have ever been external.
No, not until the
Not until
board
everything.
adopts it.
Mhm.
But don't you think that they need?
Oh, they have
that
access.
Oh, no, we'll have access to it.
Oh, I just want to make.
Oh,
sure
yeah,
that-
yeah.
It is a huge spreadsheet, and if you can hit on a spreadsheet, if you can hit on an item that takes you to the detail, you know, that would be great.
We thought you
Yeah.
were talking about public access. It's not till the final
Yeah,
documents, but we see it, yeah.
no, as long as you know what everything, all the detail is.
How's staff feel about all this? Everyone good? Everything? Everything good?
I can speak from my experience so far, just right now for me, it's just, I'm struggling with Fall Festival coming up, finding the time to dive into this, so I'm probably the one that's furthest behind on all of them, but we've talked about this internally, like John, Chief, Ryan, and we think this is a much cleaner way to go that fits in Matt's vision of, it's how it's been done is I've been probably one of the few that's been involved in both different ways of doing this. It really allows our department heads and the people that are on the ground experiencing what they're spending and what they need to have a much broader input on their operational budget, which they haven't in the past. To John's point, that initial budget presentation spreadsheet requests, we felt the need that was kind of inconsequential now with having created a capital plan, because generally speaking, that's what we got on an annual basis with those type of request forms. I want to, buy a new tractor. I want to do that. That stuff's now incorporated in a plan that if the board adopts, we will then put into the document. And then, as Matt said, start having those discussions on how we fund it. So from my perspective, I'm enjoying the new take on it, and it's allowing me to think different ways of how I'm tracking some of these line items on an annual basis, to show, maybe why we need an increase, why we don't in some of these expense line items.
Very cool.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Chiefs, heads.
Thank you, John, for the
Yes.
presentation. Very much appreciated. Thank you, Matt, for shepherding this process. Thank you to everyone else for going along. Not that you had a choice, but anyway.
Yeah, don't make it sound like that.
Gets the projects done.
Do we need, are we good, or can we just move on? All right. Okay, we've done 5 already. This is not one of those meetings where.
All over the place.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just.
Jump around.
Come on, where are we?
Okay, action item 7B. Now I need to switch to my motion sheet. Here we go. All right, this time I will take a motion from the board to approve resolution 2022-15, the 2022 budget amendment for the attachments.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. And before I ask for any comments or questions, I'll direct this to Matt for an explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this has been past practice for the township when we are looking to reallocate budgeted expenses that the board adopt a resolution defining those movement of dollars. And so we have a significant amount of budgeted money left in the website expense item from the 2022 budget. Since we developed the website, thanks Mike, in-house, it enabled us to save a nice chunk of money. So we are asking, we've got $25,000 to use. We're asking that the board reallocate $15,000 of that for the building maintenance and repairs to pay for the redesign of the admin offices by Corbett Incorporated, which the board passed at their last meeting, and to account for major equipment lease purchases to enable us to purchase additional equipment for additional staff. Not saying we're going to spend the $10,000, we're just budgeting that we're going to want to move that in there, would give us enough wiggle room.
Does the board have any comments or questions?
No.
Bill?
Nope, I'm fine.
All right, we have first and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Carried. All right, we are going to move on to the information items as part of this agenda. A, departmental reports, administration.
Thank you. I've spoken a lot today. I've given a lot of information to the board. I don't have too many other things to talk about. I'm gonna let Ryan take most of the fun tonight. He's been, I think the board saw over the weekend, a whole bunch of stuff going on, and I would like to give Ryan the opportunity to talk about the successes of the Public Works Department. There's one thing that I'd like to bring to the board's attention. We had a professionals meeting last week. And we discussed this with the township's engineer and solicitor, who recommended that I bring it up at this meeting to the board to bring attention to it. This is related to the county builders subdivision next to Spatola's. As part of that agreement, there was an easement, a right-of-way easement in the front of Spatola's to to pay for, to install a sidewalk and sewer. I had verbally been given some information from the applicant of County Builders saying that Spatola's is not in a position to move forward with that. And so just as an FYI, we're going to be working on that. I just wanted to bring it to your attention to talk about, and that we will be exploring options to make that happen. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Craig.
that's what, I just want to add that that's a condition of approval. So the plans and the resolution approval, you guys, the condition is they extend sidewalk and they agreed to do that. So this is what I consider not a small field change, and we ended up knowing about it now before they started versus during construction. To be honest with you, that's why it's being held up, because they need to get all the documents to the two of us and sign off, and they can't do it. So at some point, and I know, I think Jeff and I had spoken, Sean, I haven't yet, but I think we're all in agreement. You need to amend your approval or give them a blessing of some conditions that you will defer. I think that's where the staff was about, maybe we give them some time to acquire that easement. I know talking to Randy today, he thinks there's actually an easement there as part of.
Yep.
So they're still doing some research on that. Maybe we need to get the sisters office involved, but either way, that sidewalk is the condition of your approval, regardless if it's along PennDOT road. They want to, I understand they also asked you to have a pre-construction meeting. Once we let them go, I'm fighting for now a year to get anything done. It's just the way it is. So it depends on how important that is. I think maybe there'll be more discussion at another meeting, but
Yeah.
You'll have to make some type of action. If the job wasn't lasting so long, I say just wait, no meetings, no nothing until this gets resolved, or they come in and present. I'm not presenting, they have to present an alternate or a solution for you to amend your approval. And if they talk to you again, he kind of is coming to you now. That's up to them to present to you and make their argument, their case. They should attend, and then you will amend the prior approval.
To me, the sidewalk is imperative.
I knew it was, so.
So
you know,
Also not in favor of amending anything, considering the way that came about,
I
so.
mean, even if they have to agree to maintain that sidewalk for the next 25 years as part of the agreement,
We
like,
gotta come up with.
they've got to
something
come up
that
with a
includes
solution. We
keeping
need the
sidewalk.
connectivity,
That's
the
kind of where we were
connectivity.
at staff level,
Yeah.
that, we're on the same page, but they want to get started construction and kind of worry about it later.
Mm-mm.
I think that's too long to know.
Mhm.
We're
Yeah.
chasing them down. I don't care how
Yeah.
friendly we all are. I know the players are there, so does Sean and Jeff.
Friendly?
Yeah, we're all friendly, and professionally friendly enough, we
Okay.
all work on a lot of projects together. They can promise all they want to the two of us and Matt, but once they start construction, I don't have any leverage.
So Matt said sidewalk and sewer.
Yes.
Is it? If they have to get the easement for the sewer, why wouldn't they get it for the sidewalk at the same time?
So sewer, they can actually move the sewer into the street and bypass it. So now the easement becomes a sidewalk problem.
They just
Okay,
run the sewer
okay.
road. Which
Okay.
again is.
So they have a
then that's
solution
good
for that,
PennDOT.
but not.
So now
Yeah.
they have to go to PennDOT, and that's just not.
Okay.
That affects other things, and it just snowballs from there. It's a construction
Can
world.
we discuss what the problem is in public meeting, or is this something that should be?
I don't think they want to grant easement.
Most likely from their perspective, I'll tell you as a property owner, that they most likely don't want to allow the sidewalk because it
They don't
creates a
want their
liability
They have to maintain
and
it.
a maintenance
That's-
issue.
We don't know.
But I would
But-
guess,
This has
Maybe
been,
more information. We don't know.
this has
that's
been
my guess.
part of the plan for 2 years. Wouldn't it have made sense to have done that in the beginning phases of the plan? Not on the township's part, I'm talking
Yeah.
about on the
Well,
builder's
I
part.
thought he was gonna do some stormwater management in the back. Remember, there was some off-site stormwater management
Right,
that helps with tolls.
Mhm.
So this was all news to me. I don't think Matt or Sean, Jeff,
Okay.
she didn't even know, like, where did this come from? So, yeah, that was,
yeah, I'm agreeing
and
with
maybe
you.
it's a solution where you gotta get all the parties together and just,
Hash it out.
Mhm.
the applicant's developer says, I'll maintain it. That's in writing, it's documented, we all approve it, then maybe that's all there is. So,
All right.
That concludes my report.
Well, no,
Okay.
Old Iron Hill Road.
Okay.
This is where we should chat about this. So, in fact, I'm very glad you brought it up. That was something that I wanted to add to our action item list. I think Cynthia is probably the only one up here, but Bill's not here. There was an effort by previous management to obtain easements across properties on the downhill side of Old Iron Hill for future trail connectivity. We can't do anything about the middle of Old Iron Hill at this point, but there was an attempt to get easements across private property. Right there at the corner of Old Iron Hill and Berry. No, on the lakeside.
Creek.
Creek. And I thought we'd actually obtained one of them, or we were almost to the point where we were going to sign on it, and there was negotiations with another property owner. But I believe shortly or in the middle or towards the end of all that is when our previous manager left us. And I've meant to bring this up a couple of times and keep forgetting because I think about it on like a Wednesday when I'm on a run in the morning and but it would be nice to figure out what we've actually done. But the middle of Old Iron Hill right now is difficult for us because of all the property, the private property owners, would have to be willing to do something, but we almost had the end of it figured out.
Well, if I recall, and this might be,
We had an LE2, like we had an L. There was an easement across one property, like away from the corner, and then it lined up with the entrance to the boat ramp. On the other, on
The Bison property.
the Bison, okay,
Is the,
it was the strip, and then there was,
Strip.
then you make a right-hand turn to go down.
I would have to go back through all doc, I know that's the one that you're talking about that we signed before previous management left. I
Right.
believe that was all finalized and Sean, now, I think you said you've gotten everything updated from Grim and maybe in the records we can.
That's part of my report about the records from Graham. We'll be getting those and I'll be cataloging them at all.
there was I think a suggestion that we buy a certain property up there.
I
And
think that was the part where you make the right to line up with the.
or
boat
we
ramp
wanted
road.
the easement, the property owner wanted us to buy the property, and then
Yeah.
from what I've seen in the past records, it just died.
Yeah,
That property has now been sold. And they're currently with the zoning issue, or they were before the zoning hearing board.
Oh, yeah.
Although I think that was withdrawn.
I have an update on that.
Okay.
so anyway, so
Well,
that's something that
I'll
we
have
need
an
to,
update. I'll update. Janine keeps bringing this up and I refuse to put on my engineer's report because I'm not up to speed and Matt's looking kind of funny and I am. But all you said is correct. And I'm like, I'm not, if they ask me the question, I know nothing about the history of it. She knows, she probably could tell Mike's will work, reach out to her tomorrow morning, she'll be in here. And then, but again, I'm like, that's not part of what we're working on. It's not on the agenda. So I'm like, I'm not doing anything unless directed by the manager or the board to go start working on it again. But there's still some legwork. I think what your description is accurate, but I don't know if there's an overall plan and pieces are missing.
I think at the time we were cognizant of the fact, oh, yeah, why am I looking at you?
There's no area. I would also add too that I think that piece got dropped to the side with the Chamonix Greenway Trail, which we're still waiting.
It was all combined, like,
Getting permits, so that was the trail that we were prioritizing to that.
But I don't think the information is there. I've had this discussion many times and I've actually had conversations with people from Bucks County Planning Commission who said, this would be a great piece that we need to do. It's this final little piece. There is now walking from 202 bypass all the way along through us, through New Britain Borough, through Doylestown Township, and it dead ends at that corner.
Right.
And they say,
Well,
is there
there's-
anything that you, just
Yeah.
let me finish,
Sorry.
anything that you can do, New Britain Township, to get this part done? And we do not know. That's the thing. The documents are missing. The information is missing about where we have conservation is, where we have the easements. Where's the plan? Where's the direction? So yes, we need to gather all that information so we can have that discussion.
If I recall, one of the biggest issues we have is that there are two properties that front right on the intersection
Yes.
where there's almost no way you're going to be able to put a connection through there. And then there had been outreach to owners in the middle sections of Iron Hill Road. But that they had rebuffed the township at the time. That's, I think, what we were told.
Oh, I'm going down this rabbit hole right now.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to give you a history. So the intersection is the first ginormous problem because both properties on both corners are right against the intersection.
Yeah. there's not a lot of-
Craig,
No real
No.
estate. Yes, Bill?
my understanding was I thought that we had a right-of-way easement for that property right on the intersection.
Do we?
Which one?
I thought we had gotten the
The old
easement.
Jenkins property? Or the
Pardon?
other one?
Which one?
Jenkins or the other one?
No, it was the other one on the, if you're going up Iron Hill, it's the one on the right-hand side.
On the right hand side, okay.
Or excuse me, on the left-hand side. You see
Oh,
us doing-
that's Teresa's old house.
Right, Teresa's old house. That's who we came with the, that's who we have the easement with, I thought.
But that's just been sold. That was sold last year.
All right, so
Old, but we still have the easement on the property.
I'm just, but wouldn't you have seen that when the sale went through, that,
no.
no, okay,
So anyway, so
yes.
we need to,
There's no room on
Gather
the property on the
documents.
right. but the
he
house is right there.
basically, you know, created a lot of work. Threw you under the bus.
And the trail is unfortunately on the right side, so they'd have to go across the intersection twice.
Well, there's
to
a
get-
crosswalk. I
There's a
believe we had
crosswalk.
crosswalk put in there as part of
Yes.
the development on,
But
Right
it goes to the right side.
no, it crosses over to the left.
Does it?
So that is-
Does get like three- goes right
Yeah.
across.
Yeah,
This
Okay.
doesn't, this does.
Doesn't go back.
yeah,
So
but we
it
could go here and then that way if we had
Yeah.
to, or, so anyway, so,
Yeah, this is the trail is.
well, we've just created more
Yes,
work,
but
sorry.
There's proper crosswalk with lights.
It
and
was-
everything, and then
Right.
that
Just
was
an idea.
It was trying to figure out how to,
On that tri-municipal. trail.
yeah, it's on the tri-municipal trail from
Okay, I understand that. but
17 years ago.
I'm talking about township plan showing.
That's what I was ready to ask. Where is this?
Yeah.
Nope.
This was,
Why wasn't this raised in the what, that committee? Why wasn't this ever raised?
because I didn't remember.
Well, it's, again, to his point, it's something that I made a
Because
note
it's
that
not-
we need to add for next year, but
But that's why that.
Because no one's in charge of it.
triggered This kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Mhm.
surprise
It
me.
takes somebody remembering it and bringing it up.
That's
for
gotta
us.
stop. There's gotta be
It's called,
sheet
there
of
wasn't proper
projects.
documentation
No, I agree
in
with that.
prior years.
right,
Yes.
right. We all know that.
To see where the progress is, to see where the holes are, because if we have that plan, then we can start asking for grants and then start working towards it. So,
Mhm.
I think most of that stuff was delayed because we still don't have the required easement. So when we write for those grants, they're gonna ask, do you have the property to do this?
but we don't know we don't know where we have the easements to start working on it.
But even
So,
before you get to that part, you need a plan that the township says, look, this is what we want. Through that plan, you then identify what properties you need. That gives you the tool that you can go for and get grant money to get easements too.
Oh, come on.
And so-
Who needs a plan?
I actually needed it. Show me the plan where it's from, 'cause I was involved.
That road is gonna be so difficult to do because you have houses that are within 3 feet of the road on both sides. So
And like I said,
trail would be like this.
I believe there was a property owner that was approached who said, not in my lifetime. And
No,
that's
but-
what I seem to
No,
recall.
I knew that was, Eileen was handling that. They said, no, we're not interested, and they kind of died.
but then
But
if,
where, you can always resurrect it, where it was at all.
but then that's where you keep like a little red light on it. If the property changes hand, then we can reapproach them. That's the thing. It's like if you have that overall plan,
Yep.
this is where we have easements, this is where we need to work on. That, I have never seen that plan. We don't know where it is.
It was,
It's all
it was
somebody's
in
head,
Eileen's head, yes.
Yes.
Sort
So.
of like our-
Which does not help us now.
Our open space plan is in someone's head.
Yeah.
We need to
Yeah.
get that.
So.
So
Are we
anyway.
directing our professionals to,
I think they've already heard us.
no, but I'm making it clear that everybody understands. We are directing our professionals to now investigate this and come back with whatever information they find.
You directed the manager to look into it.
Yes,
discuss with us.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll be prepared to talk about a course of action. My
Let's give them until the first of the year or so.
I didn't say a timeline. I just said giving him the direction.
Well, I thought we'd have that by 4 PM today. Wait a minute.
You know, those two presentations we just had, I think that's his focus for the next 6
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
It's, but it's important.
Yeah.
I talk about this with my staff. These are the fun projects, right? These are outward facing, resident specific, community based projects that we need to be doing more. And I don't like that we are always in this position that it's not a fully baked plan. We don't have a plan. I want to get these things out of the idea and on paper. And if I have something on paper, I can then use that and apply it to when property owners change. I can go to the county, I can go to other places. Hey, look, we've got this idea. We need some help.
Right.
So if my spidey senses are telling me that we're going to recommend that we develop a plan.
Yeah,
Because we don't have a plan.
Yep.
So to be continued.
All right, are we good? Anybody else have any comments or questions for Matt before he runs for the door? Police? What?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report will be submitted for the next meeting. Just some highlights. We do have a temporary employee that's filling in for our administrative assistant. It's working out well. So we don't have any issues there. Also, there's been some questions about the deployment of the speed signs that we have on Park Avenue. They will be moved to a different location, hopefully by the end of this week or early next week. The signs themselves, the way we're utilizing them next week, Thursday. Okay, we already have that set up Thursday. Thank you for that update. The way we're deploying these signs, when they're first deployed, they're in just a data collection mode for the first 2 weeks. They're not displaying any speeds. Then we display the speed signs for 2 weeks, and then we turn the display off for another 2 weeks to collect data to see if there is any impact of the extra speed sign being there. Also, the signs will not display a speed unless you're going the speed limit or above. So if you're not doing like Park Avenue, if you're not doing 45 miles an hour, the sign's not going to show it. So we're working with Matt as well to develop a deployments, plan for the signs. But given that school is recently opened, we will be putting them up on Brittany Drive next, and also on Schoolhouse Road in different locations. And that pretty much, we did just complete the Shrine Festival as well. Apparently the Labor Day weekend was a record weekend for the Shrine. So next year we need to evaluate our ability to provide the proper resources for them, given that we were pretty overwhelmed over Labor Day.
Was it just from us, or was Central Bucks involved, since it's right on the border?
It's just us.
Just us.
Well, I guess as part of that, to determine whether or not the shrine itself or the festival could provide staffing to do some jobs that might not require police.
Yeah, we've looked at that. It's more or less we need to adapt to the way they do things, and have some conversations with them to see if we can influence them to do some things different.
If I could, if there aren't any more questions about that, can I go back to the speed signs? Just to say that the speed signs that we have, Chief and I have been working on developing this deployment plan and a plan. The deployment plan is trying to get, the speed signs are not just signs, they actually collect data. They collect a lot of data, and we want to use that data to integrate township-wide throughout township roads to integrate into our road paving plan. So we're working together on how we can use that data to generate our own traffic volumes and speed data to be integrated into that GIS road program.
All right, very good, cool.
Do we only have one set of them?
No, we have 4 total signs.
Okay.
So 2 of them will be deployed on Brittany Drive, and then we're looking at areas on Schoolhouse Road that will be deploying 2 of them as well.
So not their whole time at one spot would be 6 weeks. So you could just keep deploying them around the township.
Yeah, one of the things you're going to hear me talk about is as we start talking budget, is traffic. Is one of our biggest issues, right? And having the resources, we have some of the equipment. I don't exactly have personnel hours that I need to manage that appropriately. So as we talk budget, I'll talk more about that. You know, and like we have to coordinate with Public Works to have the signs move. So those are the types of things that we're starting to identify. We could do a better job, but there's another resource that we need in order to do the job the way it needs to be done.
Speaking of resources, I think you're aware we need a new crosswalk sign out here.
Hold on,
Something-
Public Works is coming up. Let's finish
Okay.
with police. Does anyone have any other questions for Chief? Bill?
Nope, I'm fine.
All right, Public Works.
So we had our newest hire start in the middle of August, Zachary Jenkins. Is working out well. We've also had Jeremy return from long-term disability at the same time that Zach started. Since then, we have completed our underground drain projects on Schoolhouse Road and Creek Road, as Dave from 123 Creek Road has elaborated on. And we have also started and almost completed Walter Road. They are out there this morning putting the guide rail back in, and we plan to have it paved by the end of the week and reopened by hopefully Friday. The 2022 road program is underway, Cedar Hill Road and Schoolhouse Road. They're both getting milled, scratched, and paved. That is in the process. And at some point near the end of the week, we will be doing prep for this year's Fall Fest.
All right, are there any questions for Public Works?
Yes, our public pedestrian crossing signs seem to have taken a direct hit this weekend.
The one right up front here,
And I saw it in pieces somewhere, yeah.
that's par for the course. I think when we started, we had 3 out here on Park Ave, and we're down to 2. And now you're telling me we're down to 1.
I brought it up because I assumed that probably the police department moved the body out of the roadway after its demise, but I could be wrong.
In the sign,
Two bodies.
no bodies, no bodies. Okay.
Was it a Louisville Slugger or a vehicle?
I don't know. I retire to my home in the evening and I'm not out to know what is going on the roadways because it's dangerous enough to go out in the daytime. With people in their hurries to get to McDonald's giving you the finger because they're running the red light. Yeah, okay, so traffic, yes, traffic.
We were having a Mac attack.
Is there any other questions for Public Works?
Yep, sorry. So the drain at Schoolhouse, was it just failing because it was being too much water going into it? Was it just?
You're talking about the storm sewer at Schoolhouse
And Erie.
Just deteriorated.
Just okay. All right, and that was my question.
We looked at 3 different fixes for it. But due to a 42-inch water main that runs parallel with the storm sewer, we opted to rebar and pour it rather than just block it back together. That's why it took 4 days to get the road or the lane back open. But it was a much more efficient fix for that project.
Yeah, because the water main's in the middle of the road. That just
It runs,
on the other side of the road.
no, it runs on that side.
I was gonna say, I think
It
it's on the
cuts
same
across
side.
at some point,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, now granted, it is 4 feet deep, but it does run parallel with our storm sewer.
Okay. And then the paving, just for my clarification, is it going over the train tracks, between the train tracks and the bridge on Schoolhouse? Or is it just on
So it is from the bridge
all the way up?
across the tracks to the curve just past
Yeah.
Cedar Hill.
Okay,
Links up with Culver.
yeah, They haven't crossed over yet, the train tracks, so.
Bill, do you have any questions?
No, I'm fine at this point.
Steph?
No.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Park and Rec.
So if you remember, the board passed an updated organizational chart, creating and institutionalizing the foreman of Parks and Rec. Pleased to announce that Bill May has taken that position, and we're in the process of transitioning him into that role. And it's been really good so far. And we added another position under Parks and Rec. And as Ryan and I talked about it, we wanted to open that possibility of that position, open it to any existing part of Public Works employees. And one decided that they would rather go to Parks and Rec. That's Brian Williams. And so he is also starting the transition over to Parks and Rec as time avails, and we have reposted a Public Works laborer position. Good things happening in Parks and Rec.
Cool.
Questions?
I just, not so much to Public Works, but speaking of parks and the long awaited playground for North Branch. We've finally been told that we're not getting what we had ordered a year ago. What are our plans to rebid that or get something in
Good
place?
question. And so we are turning the screws right now. We had received a letter from the provider saying that it was going to be manufactured September 24th. That's unacceptable. And so we're in the process of exploring alternative options. I know that we've had a couple of sales people stop by Public Works to talk about different equipment settings. Don't know where that stands since we put a down payment on the existing play apparatus. And so we're currently exploring options to get this thing moving ASAP.
Thank you.
It's unacceptable.
I hear about it all the time.
No, then we'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah, finance.
So monthly reports went out to your inboxes last night. Both the cash report as well as the statement of revenue and expenditures for August. So if there's any questions on that, please let me know. Other than that, just to keep everyone in the loop, we do have scheduled next week a liquid fuels audit that the state will be in for to review activity from 20 and 21. So that is scheduled, I believe, Tuesday of next week. So the state will be out for that Tuesday or Wednesday. They have it. They told me they would update me today, so let's post it on that stuff. And then maybe the only other piece would be we keep referencing our ARPA funds of 1.2 million that we received, but technically we hadn't received it yet, but those funds came in Friday, so cash is there.
Yeah. Yes.
Fantastic. Any questions in regards to the finance report?
No.
No. All right. Next time on.
Bill?
Oh, Bill. Sorry.
No, I'm fine. I'll wait, getting the printed copy so I can start pouring over it.
All right. Solicitor's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two items. Well, our written report will be circulated to the members before the business meeting at the end of the month. In the interim, I do have two things to report to you. One, we have begun receipt of the township's files, hard files from Grickett's former solicitor, Grimby and Thatcher. There are approximately, if I had to put a number on it, 45 boxes of files dating back as far as the earliest date I saw was 1990. The plan that I've put together with the township manager is, while it doesn't seem necessary to obviously review each and every one of those files, we are going to catalog them. I'll provide a listing and indexing and catalog to township staff, where they're going to put our heads together on which files the township requires and which it does not require. So I would anticipate that you will be presented with a resolution to destroy certain documents under your township document destruction ordinance sometime in the future. The files that we will keep will be cataloged and be available obviously to the township and either here in the building or at my office, whatever you'd prefer. So we're moving along with that. The second update I have for you is the board had previously voted and authorized the solicitor to monitor and participate in zoning hearing board litigation regarding the property 428 Old Iron Hill Road. If you'll recall, that is a permit application issue regarding the maintenance, or I'm sorry, the use and or storage of some mobile trailers, RV type trailers on the property. The counsel for the applicant has been working very closely with the engineer's office on that matter. That application, I was told just this morning, I got confirmation from counsel that it is going to be withdrawn. It was listed for the zoning hearing board this coming week, but their application is being withdrawn with agreement from the township that we will not proceed with any further enforcement. They will be proceeding to file any necessary permit applications, all necessary permit applications within the next 90 days, with the understanding that they're to move toward the actual issuance of permits within the next 180 days. So that's the agreement as it stands now, and that'll between myself and the engineer, will keep you appraised of that as it moves forward.
All right. Thank you very much. Any questions for the solicitor? Bill?
Nope, I'm fine.
Engineers report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We submitted our September's engineers report last week, and a couple updates since that was already submitted. Another litigation matter that you had settled was the Mortimer minor subdivision. And I have a draft report, so maybe Janine changed it by then, but we actually, the plans were submitted to the zoning office. They're still being reviewed. Everything's been handled and settled with the settlement plan. However, the engineer already reached out saying they want to make maybe a change to the sewer layout, which was shown on the approved exhibit to the settlement agreement. So already there might be one small issue. It might be a good thing from a design standpoint. I think we must stay away from the wetlands, but that's not what was shown on the settlement plan that you signed in agreement. So that was submitted and is being processed and reviewed. At the end of August, time into the Walters Road, we submitted our flood study, hydraulic study to the township. It's about yay thick.
I've gotten through page 2.
What?
I've gotten through page 2.
You can stop it. That's why I gave you a lengthy email with executive summary of like, here's the little nuggets. So, and I don't know if anybody's even got any, looked at anything or anything. It confirmed everything from the 10-year storm and up, it overtops the road. So the existing conditions, and then even we replaced in kind, so that pipe. And it's funny that Mr. Schmidt, if you caught it, I was smiling when he said the average rainfall is 65 inches. And he said no more hurricanes, because really that's the last 2 blowouts have been the hurricanes. And then the ground saturated. And once that road got opened up and wasn't stabilized, this happened again. But we surveyed, and don't hold me to all this, 700 feet. And again, the more further you go, the more accurate it is. But it confirmed that the road is acting as a dam. The flow for just the 10-year storm was like 1,300 CFS. Our design engineer that did it, she's an expert in doing the studies. She says it's unbelievable for a road that small of a road to have that much flow coming down, and just confirmed what we already knew. In the 100-year storm, and remember the remnants of the hurricanes were over 500 year, but the 100-year overtops the road about 1.5 feet for 520 feet, which goes past the 2 houses, past the 2 driveways. So that confirms that the one house sits on an island, which they've already told us that we've confirmed there. When it's 100-year or more, that house is surrounded. I forget their names. We did a couple options just to show you the magnitude of designing it for the 100-year storm. And there's no cost associated with it. It would be the entire road has to be redone, has to be elevated, but there's some design criteria in there. The road would still have to hold up under all that pressure. It would really be, again, I could see an arch bridge about 24 feet, 7 feet high. We have to realign the road for about 300 feet, redo the driveways. And with all that being said, if that road fails, the bridge will be there like this last time. Do you agree with that? I mean, it's acting as a dam. It's and that happens on these back roads. But all that's in there. I think it provides everything you need for your FEMA and all of the. I think most of that was reimbursement.
Yeah, if we're gonna see how that works. We've already received a ton of reimbursement from FEMA.
But I
for
think,
all the other stuff.
I think it provides a really good foundation for any questions that matter the staff get on, you know, why we did what we did in the past, prior township management made some decisions. The cost is still tremendous to do any of those type of designs, but we gave some alternates there just to kind of see the magnitude of what you would need to do, so. But if everything's kind of tied together here, we're done with our stuff, road's gonna be reopened, and hopefully no more hurricanes and.
Yeah.
I'll just add to your first update, the plan for 55 Curly Mill is on the website for residents.
Okay, so.
The review, so it's already been posted to the land development page on the website, so it's accessible.
So
And one of,
I have
okay.
just one question to go with the bridge. Did you do anything different this time than the first two times in the way you reconstructed the road
Yes, we changed the backfill.
to
As far
something
as-
different?
We went with bigger stone, but
Okay,
other than that, I mean, nothing.
No, it's, we had our structural engineer look at, because the last time the concrete pipe stayed,
Yeah.
it was the road.
Yeah.
But the road actually can become saturated and pumps. And then
Pops up?
it wasn't washed away. I mean, there's some of it, but from his analysis of the velocities and the flow, but once the embankments were eroded and jeopardized, even from the last, you know, you had so much water and then this hurricane, I felt like the road can't withstand those velocities, and the erosion gets under the water, gets under the road, pumps it up and down.
and pushes it up rather than
Yeah.
pushes it away.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit both, but I never thought of it that way. That's why we have structural engineers. So, to be honest with you, if you ever decide to do something, I still think we need to anchor the road. We showed an alternate design on that, where you have a concrete decking, like you would on a regular bridge, but extend that concrete decking, you know, a couple 100 feet, and you tie that all down into the ground and into the, so it's one big solid structure. But you're building a dam to hold back the water. So it's the millions of dollars to spend on that, you know.
One little road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not.
How about a swing bridge?
One other update is stormwater related is your MS4 permit renewal is due, which means it's pretty much an autopilot now. Just want to let you know. You haven't heard much about it. There's obviously ongoing projects, but the permit will be resubmitted. You did adopt as part of that requirement, or you're adopting here at your last meeting in September here. You've already been presented the stormwater management update per DEP, and then she'll be submitting the permit at the end of the month. It's due.
Are we going to see the actual, what the projects are? What we're aiming at?
Is that summarized, Matt, in the, I think it's a documentation of what you've already done more than what's,
It's nothing new. It's just an update to what we've already.
yeah, it's a
Have
permit,
listed.
it's not a plan.
I
Okay.
need to look into that.
Yeah, I do too, because I don't, it's more or less documenting what you've done,
Mhm.
making sure you're checking off all the boxes
Yeah.
for what the requirements are, but I'm not the Janine, I'll get an update from her. I don't think there's an ongoing list of things, you would have to sign off on all of this.
Yeah. Okay.
I know there's one project that's,
I'm just asking because there's the plan with projects that are listed.
Mhm.
So we're doing an update to that to see what projects we have completed, not completed, or what's still
we're
to.
just updating your permit.
Okay, permit,
The
okay.
permit, that's why.
Completely
I was
different.
gonna mention.
Yeah,
it, but I
it's,
didn't-
it's
Okay.
an,
Just a
it's,
permit.
yeah, it's,
Two separate
Yeah, what
things,
I would
that's
add
all.
too, what's generally updated, this is not necessary. Yes, we would add something we did, but generally this goes to like projects that have come in through zoning or whatever, if we have added planted trees or they've done a basin, that's the kind of things that get added to the permit to show. Since work's been completed, we're following through with what we've been requested.
it's
Okay,
kind of something
all right,
that
yep.
we shouldn't be worried about.
No, I'm asking questions.
Yeah,
because
no, I
I'm
know, I
interested.
know.
So that's all it is. It's just
Yeah.
information, just trying to get an understanding.
You don't have a lot, there's and just as far as land development, I'm gonna say it's quiet at all, there's a lot of little stuff, but a couple of the bigger projects keep just hitting roadblocks, so to speak, I'll just leave it at that. Like they're on a path and they stop, we have professional staff meeting, it stops, and a couple of projects we're gonna come in front of you, just haven't, they're not ready yet, so. That's all I have.
I guess that actually does open one little tiny door is that, for a person that lives next to PSC, do we have any update that I can tell the neighborhood of, I get it from, from the Highlands, I get it from, New Britain Walk, I get it from my own residents. What in the world is going on?
Well, I don't have an update. I don't think we've gotten an update. I don't think anybody at the township got an update. I was thinking the same thing. They told me they were gonna spend the summer doing demolition, which would involve me. So I don't know if Randy's got any permits, if they're doing anything with tearing anything down. Sometimes we're not involved. We're not involved if it's internal. I don't think that's even happening. They had told me originally they were looking. to do
The
that.
only update I'm aware of is we had issues with mowing.
Okay.
But I believe those have all been addressed with the property maintenance so far.
That,
Other than that, I've heard nothing from the developers.
I mean, people are still using the building and they're playing tennis on the tennis courts. It's.
I'll get an update for you for your. but don't think you can really go-
Yeah, there's people still using the building.
I don't think ownership is.
There's a
I was gonna say, there's a lot of.
Yeah,
You
let
guys
them
know there's a
finish
big there's a big project. Even if it's just construct, getting water, sewer, the sewer authority makes a review and they make a change, that changes this, how we handle crossing, the water storms, like. We're talking, there's a lot of utility issues that go on. That's a big project. I thought they were being very ambitious to say they were gonna get started this year, knowing, just based on experience, how large. They don't have to do a PennDOT, so that's pretty good, but there's just a lot of elevation changes going on with the grading and, so.
I'm just
I
surprised
try
that
to
they
get you
didn't at
right.
least demo the building, because
They
that's,
said they wanted to do that this summer.
that's the biggest, the biggest thing they have to get through
And
is
if ownership
that.
didn't change hands, and that's a big indicator. I don't know, but I don't think they've gone to settlement.
Public comment?
Just to add to your misery about complaints. I use it as a cut through, as always, to go to the doctor's office like those classes. Is when they have potholes in there, that's their problem, not your guys' problem.
Depends which road.
Depends on which road.
When you want to go past the water tower, that, if you're
The
coming
road's gonna
from.
change, right?
You
From-
turn into the property.
You go on County Line Road, you turn into there, you go past all the little doctor's offices, go straight ahead, you veer left. and you
Now
go
you're up.
into there.
That's private right there.
Is that Randy Tushner should be nailing them for big huge potholes in the road, or doesn't matter?
I'm still trying to figure out exactly, are you talking about past the cancer center?
No, he's up
You're
further
coming
by
off
the
of-
water tower.
you're
He's turned
coming-
into the parking lot
Yeah, you
at
turn-
High Point.
Come on, back.
You come in off of County Line, you
The
go,
water tower straight ahead, you turn left at the water.
oh, you turn left at the water tower. Yeah, that's on them.
They got huge potholes, that's fine.
They could just close off the
They
road.
could just close the road. Technically, I guess we're not supposed to be cutting through there as residents because it's private property. So,
But if they use the road,
Now with the land development, was that from the public road, a non-dedicated?
I don't think we were taking dedication. of
No,
that.
we're not.
No,
It'll be controlled by the HOA.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm sure they're gonna have their roads paved nicely.
I don't even
when
think
the
that road's
developer
still gonna be there.
Oh, it's gonna be gone.
Okay.
It'll all be.
Yeah.
There'll be all new roads, everything. new.
Yeah.
Put that one on the sky.
No, I
Is
think
it
there's a
the
house
corner?
sitting right there. No,
Oh, okay.
You have to keep going past the property and turn before you get to Upper State and come up that way. Unless you're coming off County Line.
Yeah, the problem turning left on Upper State from that side street is that hump there, if you're turning.
Yeah.
Since we don't see it.
yeah,
There'll be some sort of traffic warning device that they're going to be installing, but the sightline is terrible. And the people speeding doesn't make it.
no, it doesn't help.
Help.
Is there any other questions in regards to the engineer's report? All right, Bill? Bill still awake? Bill?
He's gone for a quick minute.
Is he still there?
He's still here, but he's.
All right, board comments.
He's muted.
Gotcha. You have any board comments, Bill?
Don't mute it.
Okay.
Unmute, but maybe away from the computer.
Okay.
Gotcha. Board comments?
Just like to thank the staff for their job with the capital improvement plan and moving forward. And looking forward to Public Works and the Fall Festival this weekend.
I have no comments at this time.
No, also looking forward to the fall festival. That's it.
Have we're just, Bill's done. All right, I don't have any comments. We're going to move to committee reports. Matt, do you want to do the announcement for this, or you want me to just do it?
Well, so there was no meeting in August. The next scheduled meeting is for September 20th. And I know we discussed earlier that the board would like to cancel that meeting.
Which committee are we talking about?
Park and Rec.
Yes. Doesn't appear that there's,
It actually would be a wrap-up meeting for Fall Fest, and then a discussion about Santa House.
okay.
So, is the board still?
Yeah.
Do we have to just,
Just request that they cancel.
Boy.
how do we tell a advisory board that we want them to cancel their next meeting?
Park and Rec.
Do we have to vote on it, or, okay, all right, the board would like you to communicate to Park and Rec that they're to cancel their next meeting.
And what if they say no?
They don't have a choice.
No, I mean, they can convene if they want to. If they don't have a quorum, then what's the point? But
The township building will not be accessible that evening?
Well, I think that the board can leave it with, the board recommends that the meeting be postponed or canceled pending further development.
Okay. And that if they wanted to meet, the building will not be available that evening. Is that good, everyone?
That's good. I'm in agreement.
Bill? Still nothing?
So muted.
Okay, I'm just giving it, I gotta put it out there.
Yep.
All right, is there any public comment? I'm assuming we have no one watching, other than Bill,
Just Bill.
but he's not there either.
Nope.
Mr. Chairman, I may have missed it at the beginning of the meeting. Did you announce the executive?
Yes, I
session
did.
And the one from August as well?
I did not. Thank you very much. I do need to make
August
that.
31st.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry. The board did meet an executive session on August 31st to discuss personnel. Sorry about that. Are there any other announcements?
I have none. Oh, I do. Hang on, sorry.
Yes.
Parks and Rec, we still have an opening and we've advertised it to any interested applicants to apply by the end of this month. So the board can consider moving forward in October.
Okay, fantastic. All right, thank you very much. And then prior to adjournment, I will make the following announcement. The next meeting of the Board of Supervisors of New Britain Township will take place on Monday, September 26th, 2022 at 7 p.m. here in the Township Building. Agenda and meeting materials will be posted to the Township's website prior to the meeting date at newbritontownship.org. Also, a recording of this meeting will be available on the Township's YouTube page within the next 24 to 36 hours. After all that, I will now take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, Bill's back.
He's back. Hey, Bill. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Thank you all.